Now let's take you back to our top story. The federal government says security cooperation with international partners, including the United States, has led to precision airstrikes on terrorist targets in northwest Nigeria. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs confirmed the operations following intelligence sharing and strategic coordination carried out with full respect for Nigeria's sovereignty and international law. It stressed that terrorism, whether targeting Christians or Muslims or any community, violates Nigeria's values and global peace. The government says all counter-terrorism efforts prioritize civilian protection, national unity, and human dignity, while partners continue to work together to weaken terrorist networks and cross-border threats.
Now, for more on this, we are joined in the studio by Dr. Yahuza Getso, who is a security intelligence expert and investigation expert. He is a community-driven development professional and is also managing director of Eagle Integrated Security and Logistics Company Limited, Abuja. Dr. Getso, thank you so much for joining us live on Daybreak.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Now, the realities of the security situation seems unabating, and now the latest is the airstrike being described by the U.S. Africa Command as a precision strike, coming days after warning that there will be hell to pay if terrorists do not desist from the vicious killing of people in the country. Is this supposed to be a welcome development for Nigerians? Because the question of national sovereignty, protection of civilian populations are clearly outlined.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the airstrike came at the right time, and it's the right measure, and I commend the U.S. government for so doing, and I also appreciate the Nigerian government for making it very clear to Nigerians that this is something that was done in collaboration and in partnership. My only concern is to make sure that the target population are the ones that the strike will continue to be on. Because, and this is sending message to the community, sending message to the criminals, sending message to the complicit, sending message to the compromisers. And it is now time for Nigeria to bring an end to these unnecessary killings happening in all parts of the country.
Now, some are apprehensive that any form of U.S. involvement within the country will worsen the current situation. Examples have been given of U.S. military intervention or involvement in other countries that have often ended in disaster. Do you share the sentiments?
Well, I quite disagree with that sentiment. I believe, based on the submission made by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and based on the outline, if those agreements are respected, I think Nigeria will have it as an opportunity, and Nigerians will find it as an opportunity for us to have a peaceful coexistence, national unity and development, so that huge amount of money being borrowed and being spent by our leaders will now be utilized in development projects and other things.
So now, as it is now, we spoke with our correspondent from Sokoto, and we asked him about the precision of the strike as boldly described by both the U.S. government and the Nigeria's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And he said that no casualty figure coming from both the population or the terrorists have been identified. So can you tell us the capacity of the U.S. to deliver on precision strike, mainly on the terrorists, without violation of the international law as it affects the primacy of the civilian population?
Well, the reality is yes and no. Sometimes it can happen, and many times there must be a collateral damage when you are trying to address issue. So definitely, as the activities of the terrorists also is not focusing only on the theater of those who might be responsible for what may be the reasons why they are carrying arms. Likewise, when a U.S. government is also responding, or even when Nigerian government is responding, definitely there will be a collateral damage here and there. So I don't expect it to be perfect always. But this is sending a message to three. One, to the group of religious criminals. Two, to the group of criminals conniving with religious and non-religious criminals, and also sending message to the connivance and saboteurs of the Nigeria's sovereignty and Nigeria's national development and growth.
So as a security expert, what immediate impact can we expect from these strikes on the operational capabilities of groups such as ISWAP, Boko Haram, bandits, and are airstrikes enough to dismantle these terrorist networks? Well,
7 outline things might come off as a result of that. One, strengthening collaboration and partnership between ISWAP, ISWAP, Boko Haram, and all other religious militia. There will be a strengthening relationship. There will be a lot of meetings between on the bilateral and multilateral on how to strengthen the capacity of the ISWAP and other violators within the country. That is one. Secondly, is sending the message to our leaders to sit up to their responsibility. And thirdly, is sending the message also to the criminals, especially in the northwestern part of the country, who are yet to be identified, or who are yet the Lakurawa, the Mahmouda, the kidnappers, and the rest of them, Ansaru, and so on and so forth. Even though they may not have direct link, some of the kidnappers and bandits may not have a direct link on working on religious perspective. But because of the religious inclination, definitely the U.S. government and all others who might be supporting directly or indirectly in this cause will definitely address them in the same way. Yeah, it's sending the message to the culprits of economic sabotage, and then it is also sending message to the neighborhood of Nigeria in terms of strengthening bilateral relationship to ensure that moving forward there will be a more synchronized activities on bilateral bonding.
But apart from message, sorry for the follow-up, apart from just sending message, to what extent will their operational capabilities be degraded?
Well, it will really going to be very sensitive, and it is really going to be of great impact is to each and everyone, and definitely the result is going to be something that can be assessed in the next 3 months. We might not be able to make a simple assessment now, but we will look at the other things, the responses and the outcome of what might happen in the next 3 months.
Now let's try to establish a pattern with the U.S. Strike in some other climes like Yemen, Syria. We've seen Somalia, rather, Iraq, Iran, and even in the Caribbean. Thank you very much. So when we look at this, how do you judge the? I still want to tender more on this precision, because our correspondent told us that there have not been any violence in Jabu community in Sokoto State. So the choice of what's brought about the choice of Jabu attack? One would have expected to hear strikes in areas like even Maiduguri, that was initially notorious for this attack coming from violent extremists, or areas like Zamfara, Niger State. So the choice of Jabu that has never really come under violent attack, what informs this?
Well, I think U.S. government is sending a message, but have missed the target. Probably there may be an intelligence generated in the wrong precision, in the wrong perception, in the wrong direction. The analysis, the geographical analysis using the Google Earth might have redirected those of us who have been using the Google Earth and any other materials, other tools that are being used in identifying and strategically targeting a location. Probably, you know, Jabo is more or less in another local government that have not really been violent.
Sorry, because I'm bringing this discussion on against the background of the attack on Iraq, in which they later found out that there was no weapon of mass destruction in the area. So could you elaborate further?
You know, like I always say, these attacks and the responses of the U.S. government might not be only directed to kind of weakening the system or the operations of the criminals, but it might have another interest, which it is working. But that interest may be economic, that interest may be political. So in making such insinuations, definitely U.S. government have a systematic strategies of dealing with things like what happened in Iraq, what happened in Syria, what happens in many other countries, even what is happening now in Ukraine. there are other interests of the U.S. government which might not be undermined and might not be really explicit and made very clear. So this might also be the something in line with its operations and strategic activities in fighting insurgency.
Yeah, but what happened in Iraq or Syria or even other countries in the Middle East, it's not exactly what is going on now with this so-called cooperation and structured strike with Nigeria. It seems totally different. Those ones were direct, heavy intervention that went on for years. What's your sense?
Well, even this one, as it started, you know, the issue of Boko Haram, bandits, and other things started long ago. It didn't start just of recent. So U.S. government might have a strategic warfare, a strategic way of addressing the issue. The offensive activities might come much later.
Yeah, you said something that I find very poignant and quite instructive, and that's the possibility that the U.S. might have missed the target, missed its target. What implication does this have for an extremist group like the ISIS and the Boko Haram sects that have this extremist radical ideology, and they also have their own backings too from their own support system?
Well, this will definitely be a promotion of religious ideology and radicalism, and it will also strengthen the working relationship, the teaming up on providing required necessary support that might not be available in the hand of the ISIS and ISWAP and Boko Haram that are available in the country. That is in Nigerian's airspace. So definitely the foreign partners, the other external forces that have been providing an enabling environment, or enabling opportunity in terms of armament, in terms of training, in terms of social and economic support, will definitely change the strategy in dealing with the situation and in improving and changing the systematic way to which they will continue to operate. We should learn lessons from what happened recently in Maiduguri. That is a message.
Do you think that airstrikes such as this could provoke retaliation against Nigerian forces or even civilians?
Well, it will...
And what can we do to mitigate such risks?
It will be against civilians, probably. So, because the criminals will also want to showcase their capacity, will also want to elaborate. So it may have more impact on the civilian rather than the government. And what we should do in order to mitigate it is intensive sensitization and mobilization. And then for the government, the operatives of the government, that is the security agencies operating in Nigeria, to be more proactive in chasing in reaching out to the criminals where they are and dealing with them accordingly, not to wait until when they came, because even where the dialogue sessions happens in Katsina and other places, the activities have returned much more offensive on the communities, on the civilian, much more offensive than what it was before the dialogue. So that is a message.
Okay, now still on the background of the possibility of the U.S. missing its target, this resonates the narrative that has been going on, that's even coming from the U.S. government, that this war will not be won by military boots alone. And there have been several non-kinetic recommendations, like the introduction of state policing, which I feel that the government at all levels is foot-dragging on. What do you feel? How would you react to this?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I now understand it has been made very clear that the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration is moving forward, is moving on with the issue of state police, which is, I think we should be very, very careful on how we start it, on how we do it. I know many countries started that way, and we continue to review and reform. We can't get it perfect just a day. So I am very optimistic that this is an opportunity for Nigeria to strengthen working relationship in terms of community-driven activity, strengthening the working relationship between the agencies, and also struggle hard to address the issue of competitiveness among the agencies.
Thank you, Dr. Yahuza Getso, a security and intelligence expert. Thank you very much for making our time to be part of this very urgent discussion. Very important, crucial discussion indeed on Daybreak. Thank you very much indeed. And that's all we have time for here on Daybreak. It's goodbye from me, Benga Ashuru. Have a pleasant Boxing Day.
And I'm Constance Ikoku. Please do keep it here on the Rise News. The morning show is next. Goodbye.